Basically, I created this diagram to show people how they can win in life. Of course, I'm assuming that you want to win in life, right? But the thing about winning is that, first of all, you've got to ask yourself, what is the game? You've got to really understand this game and understand the rules, within this game, if you're going to play by the rules and win. So the funny thing, well, actually, it's not that funny. It's more tragic. The tragic thing is that most people in society are losing. And even more tragic is that they don't know that they're losing. They don't know that they are basically, I wouldn't say wasting their lives, but they're basically leading a life that is less than the life that they could have had if they had learned how to play the game. So in this diagram, which looks simple, but it took me like 7 years to create, not 7 years to create the graphics and stuff like that, but to create the logic behind this diagram. This diagram shows you the whole system, the whole capitalistic system. And we know since November 1989 that capitalism as an economic system has won over communism. So capitalism is the only thing we have, right? You can occupy Wall Street if you want, you can occupy the streets, you can try a number of things, but basically that's what we're stuck with. Now, I agree with people when they say that capitalism is unfair, but that's why I'm creating this diagram and I'm giving away these videos to people to show them that you can play the game of capitalism in a way that is compassionate. We can together reform capitalism so that we can all win, so that we don't get a situation where only a few people, the elite, win and the majority of people are losing out. So that's the purpose of this diagram, is really to liberate people, to liberate your potential, because you have great potential. And this diagram will show you, will inspire you to actualize that potential. And as you actualize that potential and you begin to take your life into your own hands and you understand how the game is played and you play the game and you practice playing the game, I guarantee you that it's inevitable you will become rich. You will become richer than you are right now. You will make more money and you will have more fun too. And you will personally grow as a result. You will personally evolve as a result of engaging on this path of financial freedom. So basically, this diagram shows you that most people start here. They are currently workers. They have a job and they're working for an employer. And it starts here because chances are, when you graduate from college or university a few years ago, it could be 5 years or 10 years or 20 years ago or even 30 years ago, you didn't have much to show for, right? You just have a degree, and we all know that a university degree is not worth that much. But at least your university or your college degree shows to employers that at least you were serious enough to stick to something for 3 years and you finished it. I mean, you actually got your degree. So that says something about you compared to somebody who dropped out of high school and who couldn't tackle the intellectual challenges of school. So when you graduated years ago, you had nothing, and the employer gave you all the tools, and that's what I call organizational leverage. So you were offered a job, and of course maybe you had student loans or you had expenses to pay. You moved out of your parents' house, and you needed the money, so you accepted a job. But what happened is that over the course of 5 or 10 or 20 years, you got comfortable and you stayed in that worker bubble. This is like a bubble, and you stay in it. And you never venture outside of it. You never venture out to discover your talent or your real passion in life or exactly what you believe in. And of course, you don't venture out to create solutions and become free agents. So this is where you are most likely. And this is where most of your friends on Facebook and most relatives in your family are. And this is not bad. This is a very good place to start. I mean, it's a better place to start than if you were on welfare, even though that, you can get yourself out of welfare also. I believe in human potential. But this is a good place to start. So I'm not saying anything bad about having a job. But once you have a job and you master your job, you have two options. You can either go up the ladder, within the corporation, or if you want to play the capitalism game the way that I'm teaching it here, you have to move toward the right. In other words, you have to become a free agent. And to become a free agent, all you need to do is create a solution. Now, we're not talking about a super solution where you're going to charge people or companies like $5,000 for just a simple solution. If you charge people $100 or $500 for that solution, that is enough. And you can become a free agent even while you're holding down a full-time job. Because sometimes a full-time job is necessary, to pay your mortgage, because banks will usually lend only to people who have a corporate job. So you can become a free agent part-time or full-time. But what happens is that when you create a solution and you become a free agent, notice that the free agent is standing right on the edge, this center line. So when you become a free agent, it's like your first step toward the whole world here on the right hand side, the capitalistic world, where you can have capitalistic leverage. Capitalistic leverage means that you can borrow money from the banks, you can set up your own corporation, you can incorporate, and therefore you can issue shares and you can get money in exchange for those shares. You can create partnerships with suppliers, with collaborators, with contract workers. You can actually write all kinds of contracts because it's a free society. You can contract with anyone, you can associate with anyone. And that is not really the case when you're a worker. When you're a worker, the only thing you're concerned about is doing your job, performing within your job parameters. That's the only thing you're concerned about. That's the only thing that the boss will support you with. But when you become a free agent, you're not, you're not isolated in your cubicle anymore. You're not working within the four walls of your employer organization. You actually have the freedom to explore the whole marketplace and strike joint ventures and partnerships left and right. So you can associate with so many people, and therefore the opportunities are limitless. But of course, the challenge is that you've got to discipline yourself and have the willpower, the work ethic to work hard every day and in order to serve your clients. And you will have multiple clients, and not just one client or one boss or one employer as when you were an employee. So becoming a free agent is really the crux of the critical step if you want to move from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, where you begin to play more fully the capitalism game. Now, the capitalism game is really simple. It's like a game of Monopoly. The idea is for you to create more and more value and then exchange that value for dollars, and then you use your dollars or your money to invest so that you can repeat the same process. So it's really like gardening, if you will. You plant a few seeds and you grow a few trees, and then the trees will produce fruits, and you take the seeds from those fruits and you plant more trees. So it's really an organic process, whereas on the left hand side, when you're a worker, it's more mechanical. You're part of a machine, and this machine is called the business corporation. And because you're part of a machine, you have to be highly predictable. You can't do anything too creative. Whereas here, you can be as creative as you want, just as long as you serve the customer, just as long as you serve your clients well. Now, I have to say something important here. I said that the left-hand side is not where you play the game of capitalism. So in that case, why did I put talent here? And why did I put like your personal values? And why did I put your passion here? Well, these entities, these elements of your personality or your being are very important, but usually they're not part of this bubble, this worker bubble. So when you're an employee, chances are, and this is a general statement, so it applies maybe in 90% of the case, you're not using your talent, you're not using your passion or tapping your passion, and you're not really working in a way that is aligned with your values, right? You're just doing your job and then you get a paycheck. That's basically the contract that you have with the corporation. So you might have a particular talent like cooking or public speaking in your own private life, but it doesn't really it's not part of your job. And you might have a particular passion for French cuisine, or in my case for calligraphy, but it's not related to my corporate job. And you might have values like you believe in justice and beauty and art, but it's not really part of your job description. So even though these are important elements of your being, you're not using them in your job, and of course you're not using them to go over here in the game of capitalism where you can make money. So here's the major contribution of this map. I'm showing that with your passion and your talent, and you can see the big arrow here, you can use also your creativity to create a solution. So you can use your talent and passion to create a solution. And this solution allows you to become a free agent, and then you can go in the marketplace and really play the game of capitalism. I think that's the biggest message I want you to retain from this diagram, from this video presentation. You can use your passion and your talent to create a solution, and then from your solution you can go to the marketplace and sell and trade with other economic players, other people. It can be your suppliers, collaborators, it can be other freelancers, it can be employers, etc. So what I'm saying is that if you're a worker, chances are you're not going to be able to create a solution, because the means of production that you've been using so far, the processes, the work methods, they all belong to the employer. You just don't have the right to use those means of production to create a solution. If you did that, they would sue you. So you really can't do that. If you have a job, just do the best job you can and get the best paycheck you can. But in your own personal time, you've got to develop your talent, you've got to develop your passion and your values to create a solution that you own. So solution here by definition means that you can create those solutions independently for your clients. You don't, you're not using anything that belongs to the employer. That's why they say that you're a free agent. You're not bound by the rules and the policies of the employer. You're totally free. You're by yourself. But like I said, you don't have to make a leap of faith and quit your job and become a free agent. You can become a free agent, in your own personal time, like on evenings, on weekends, and usually, if your free agency is based on your passion and talent, you will find the energy to do it. You will have super energy after your job, and that's exactly what I did in 1993. I was working full-time for the Justice Department, but in my own free time I was running a business, a retail business with a friend of mine, and we were selling handmade notebooks to several upscale boutiques in Montreal. So I was a free agent offering a solution to retailers. Of course, I didn't make it to becoming a full-fledged business because we had several difficulties. But I had the experience of working part-time as a freelancer, so I can tell you that it's a lot of fun. You can be a free agent part-time even while you're holding down a full-time job. And then after you have a solution and you've been working as a free agent and you've offered your solutions to quite a number of people and they begin to pay you in order to get your solution, then it's time to look more into the issue of finding a market for your solution. And by market, I mean a target market. I mean a group of homogeneous buyers who respond to your solution in a positive way. So by homogeneous, I mean that your market is made up of people who share the same characteristics. For example, one market could be job seekers who are over 50 years old. So usually, people who are over 50, they have certain feelings and certain priorities and certain fears, right? And so when they look for a job, they have a problem. Maybe the problem is that they feel they're too old to compete against young people. So if you're, let's say, a resume writer, then you want to target that market. That's one of the markets you want to target. So your solution would be, a complete resume writing solution. And your market would be job seekers who are over 50. And you help these people to find a job. So that's when you become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, very simple definition, is someone who has a proven and wanted solution and who is serving one target market. I don't recommend serving two target markets because you're a one-man show. You're just one person. You just don't have the time and the resources to serve two markets at the same time. There's a law that is called the curse of dimensionality, which says that when you increase the number of variables, the complexity increases exponentially. So for example, if you serve two markets, then 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 4. So the complexity will be 4. If you serve 3 markets, 3 to the power of 2 is 9. So the complexity would be 9. So you just don't have the time and the resources to deal with additional complexity, which is why you should stick to one target market. And you can have 1 or 2 solutions, but you serve only 1 or 2 target markets. In fact, I recommend having only one solution, and then you can have several services which are not the same as a solution. A service is something that you do that is quite simple. One of your clients need you to do something and it's a service. You perform the service and you charge something per hour, like $50 an hour. But a solution, you can charge much more because it's a complete system that will solve a big problem for the client. So a solution is something that you can charge much more than a service. But you can have many services. I mean, I'm not saying that you should just focus on a solution and not serve people when they need your services, but just have the intention of developing one major solution and keep on developing that solution so it provides more value to your clients, and therefore you can charge more money for it. So for example, my solution to entrepreneurs is called the BMW 5 solution, where in 5 sessions I help them to build a business system that will generate revenue for themselves. And in many cases I will even invest in my clients, and that's how they know that I will stick by them and I will ensure that their BMW 5 system really works. So that's my system. That's my consulting solution system for my clients. And I offer other services like business plan writing or copywriting, but that's not a solution. That's just a service that I offer. So the bottom line is that when you're a free agent, you should have one solution, and when you find a market that fits your solution, and this is what I call the solution market fit, really, really important, then you become an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur has a solution and has a market that wants that solution. Now, once you're an entrepreneur, right, it's not just enough to offer your solution to your market. You've got to create a whole system, what I call a business system, that will work for you. Because remember that when you were an employee, there was a business system that you could leverage, and it's called the employer corporation. And it's a whole system that works really well. I mean, if you quit your job tomorrow, they can find somebody to replace you, and that's the proof. That's the proof that their business system works really well. You're just a very small part of that system. If you go tomorrow, they pick up the phone and they call a headhunter, and they will find a replacement for you within 2 weeks. If you're an executive, it might take a little bit longer, but today they can even hire executives on a temporary basis. Like even executives can be temps, TEMPS, and not just secretaries. So they can replace you like no problem within 2 or 3 weeks. And that's when you know that their system is working. Of course, their business system is working for them, but it's not really working for you because you're just a worker. You're very replaceable. That's why you should become a solution provider or free agent, which makes you a little bit less replaceable. And when you become an entrepreneur, you need a business system that supports you in the same way that when you were an employee, you had a whole business system that supported you. So being an entrepreneur is not enough, and this is something that many entrepreneurs misunderstand. They think that it's all about going out there with their business card and their website, and then pitching left and right and trying to organize joint venture partners and create projects, but they just don't have the system. And this system is something I've been teaching since 2006, and nobody so far has such a system. I've taught like maybe 800 or 900 entrepreneurs, and none of them have a system, and that's why they're stuck. They think they are business people, but they're really just freelancers or budding entrepreneurs. They can't get to the next level. If you're an entrepreneur right now and you want to get to the next level where you have a business system that works for you, meaning that you become a chief executive officer, you've got to learn the business model workout. And the business model workout basically teaches you, and it's a workshop, it teaches you that, first of all, you've got to create a business model. You've got to put on paper exactly what is your business model, right? And it's got to be logical. It's like the blueprint for a car or the architectural plan for a house. It's got to be logical. And second of all, you've got to work it out. You've got to work your system until it becomes perfect. By perfect, I mean that it generates revenues consistently every week or every month. If in the last 6 months you have not generated revenues consistently, you just don't have a system. But the good news is that it's not difficult to create that system, and I'm going to teach you. Basically, you just need 3 processes to create that successful business system. You need a marketing process where you generate leads, and a lead is just a potential client or a probable client. Second process you need is a sales process. The sales process is likely to be more sophisticated if you're serving companies. And that's what we call the B2B market. Your business serving another business. And last but not least, last arrow here, it's the production process. This is where you produce your product or where you deliver your services. So that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your business system: marketing, sales, and production. And that's just your system on paper. That's your business model on paper. You still have to work it out. So for marketing, you've got to track your numbers like every week, every Friday, by 5 p.m. you've got to count the number of leads you've generated that week so that you can track your progress. And the number of leads that you generate that week has to be higher than the week before. That's how you know that your marketing is improving. Same thing with your sales. How many customers did you get, paying customers did you get that week? The number has got to be equal or higher than last week. Same thing with production. How many customers did you actually serve that week? And the number has to be equal or higher than the week before. So if you track your numbers that way, friends, I guarantee you your business will grow. Because even if you make mistakes, like for example marketing, and your numbers begin to dip, and you see a decline in the number of leads generated, at least you know that you have a marketing problem. Next week you have to focus on solving that marketing problem, and not the sales or production problem, because marketing is your problem. That's what your numbers are telling you. Numbers don't lie, right? You count the number of leads and you just compare them to last week's performance, and you know whether or not you have a marketing problem. So that is part of the workout. You've got to work your system, and you work your system by using real numbers. Most entrepreneurs do not track the numbers, and I just don't know why. When you go into business, you've got to become a master of numbers. And we're not talking about quadratic equations here. We're not talking about linear algebra. We're talking about simple arithmetics, something that your teenage kids can understand. You just count the number of leads, count the number of customers, and count the number of happy customers that you've been able to serve that week. And it's got to be a measurement that you take every week. Every day might be a little bit too intense unless you're a retail store owner. But count your number every week, and at the most every month. But every month is just too long. Count them every week, and then you can improve your business system every single week. Again, the purpose of these three processes is that you can create a machine or a business system that will work flawlessly. I guarantee you that after maybe 3 months or 6 months of tracking your numbers, you will know exactly what your problem is, and you will be able to solve your problems, and then you will have a business system that generates revenue consistently. And after you have such a consistent and reliable business system, then you've earned the right to become CEO. Until you have a business system, you are not a CEO, not even a president. You are just an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who has a solution and who is going aggressively after market. So an entrepreneur is more like a warrior, whereas a CEO is more like a general, a military commander. So that's the difference. Entrepreneur is a warrior, and the CEO is a military general, a 5-star general, right? So you've got to be a good entrepreneur, a good warrior, before you can graduate to becoming a CEO. And using the same analogy, a free agent is kind of like a mercenary. It's somebody who can survive on his own, whereas a worker is like a soldier. So initially, right now, chances are you're a soldier. You're working in a certain army. This army is, the corporation. From soldier, and soldiers are usually dependent on each other, you've got to become a mercenary who is more independent. And from mercenary, you've got to become a warrior. A warrior is more powerful than a mercenary. And then from warrior, you've got to become a military commander. Now, I apologize for the women out there. I know I'm using a very masculine analogy, but that's the best analogy I can come up with to show you the progression from worker to free agent to entrepreneur and finally to chief executive officer. So this is basically the game that I wanted to explain to you. And this map, I love these colors. It took me a while. It took me like 2 full days to create those graphics. But I love this map because it shows you the game. Now, you are not obligated in any way whatsoever to play this game. You don't have to become a CEO. You don't have to leverage capitalism. You don't have to, get to a point where you own the work that you produce, what I call private work properties. Whatever work you produce, you own. You don't have to train other business people or license to them or become a franchise. You don't have to get to a point where you can get financial leverage from banks and lenders. You don't have to play the game of capitalism on the right hand side. That's what I'm saying. You can remain a worker all your life, and you can retire by the time you're 65. You can stay in that bubble all your life. There's nothing wrong with that. But this map is not for people who are satisfied where they are. This map and all my teachings, all my workshops, I have about 40 workshops, are for people who want more out of life. And if you want more out of life, and I'm talking about more freedom, more feeling more alive at work, if you want to live your passion, live your dream, if you want to use your talent, if you want work that is aligned with your values, if you want to create solutions based on your creativity, if you want to meet a lot of people, if you want to play the game of capitalism, the only game in town, if you want to move to the right hand side and make as much money as you want, then this map will show you how. And my personal consulting and coaching and training programs will teach you how. That's, I'm a naturally ambitious person ever since I was a kid. So to me, I always want more out of life. And that kind of ambition has served me well. I find that with ambition, you can grow quickly as a person. You can evolve. But if you're the kind of person who you just want to show up 9 to 5 and do your work, and you go home and you do whatever it is that you do in your free time, that's okay too. My intention is not to impose my belief on you. I'm just saying that you can be much more than who you are right now. You can do much more than what you're doing right now. You can earn much more money than what you're earning right now. It doesn't matter whether you're earning 50,000 or 100,000 right now. You can earn twice that amount or 3 times that amount. But, and this is a big but, you've got to use the principles that I'm teaching in this map. You've got to become a free agent. There is no other way. Unless you become a free agent and you have your own solution, you will be stuck on the left-hand side where you're not really playing the game of capitalism. You're playing the game of office politics, right? You're playing a game where you're trying to jockey for resources within the corporation, and you're trying to go up the corporate ladder, the famous corporate ladder, but you're not going anywhere financially, because your revenues and your salaries will always be constrained by corporate policies. Unless, of course, you're a salesperson being paid on commission, or unless you're the CEO who has a bonus, whether the corporation succeeds or not. But that's not the case for most people. Most people are professionals and managers working in a corporation, and their financial freedom is not going to happen, because that's not, this is not capitalism. This is really corporate bureaucracy. Right? Bureaucracy is not necessarily something bad. It's just that bureaucracy is constraining the actions that you can take, and it's constraining your creativity and your innovation capability. So this side, the left-hand side, is not where you're going to make money and achieve financial freedom. You can try, but nobody so far, as far as I know, has been able to become financially free by being an employee. So you've got to become a free agent, and then you've got to become an entrepreneur, and finally CEO. Now, there are many people who are professionals and are employees here, and they make money, they have a good salary, and they take that money and they wisely invest in companies over here, publicly traded companies, or even private companies, and they earn dividends, or they grow the value of their portfolio. So that's an indirect way for them to to play the game of capitalism. They are basically shareholders, but that's a good way. But I don't prefer that way. I'm not saying it's not valid. It's working well for some people, but it's not direct. You have talent, you have passion, you have creativity. You can take a more direct route and create solutions, and then play the game of capitalism instead of being spectators of other people playing the game. Because when you're shareholders, it doesn't matter how much your portfolio performs. You're basically a spectators. You're not playing the game. That's why they say that investing is really an old man's game. If you're young, and it doesn't matter what your age is, if you feel young, if you feel that you want to play the game of capitalism, which is a great game once you learn how to play it, then you can make twice the amount of money you're making. You can make much more than any typical investor out there who's getting like 15 or 20% return. 15 and 20% return on a portfolio, that's pretty good. But what I'm saying is that you can make much more when you have a solution, and then when you target a specific market and you become an entrepreneur, and then eventually you become a CEO, you own and you run your own business system. So that's my promise to you, and I stand by my promise. You can contact me. I'll give you a free consulting session, and I will give you an estimate and an assessment of your situation, and I will help you all the way. Like I said at the beginning, I position myself as Canada's #1 wealth coach, and this map is positioning me, is giving me the credibility to become the #1 wealth coach in Canada. And because of my positioning, obviously, I want to serve as many people as possible so that I can, reinforce my positioning. And to me, it's really a game. A lot of people think about business and finance and entrepreneurship as something very stressful, but to me, I understand the rules. I've been playing the game of entrepreneurship for the last 20 years. So So I've made all the mistakes. I've learned from my mistakes, and I've discovered a lot of rules and a lot of unwritten rules and a lot of secret techniques and practices, and I have all the secrets, so I can teach you all of that, how you can play the game of capitalism so that you also can become financially free. So anyways, that's the video I have for you today. If you like it, please share it with your friends and family and your business contacts. They will love you for it, and I look forward to talking to you more in my next video.